Tumelo Madlala is back on the stand today in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. He was the football star's longtime friend and was there when he was killed in 2014.
Yeah, so during his examination yesterday, Madlala kept saying he forgot the times that certain important events happened on the day that Meyiwa was killed. In fact, the judge also upheld a ruling denying Kelly Khumalo's lawyer the right to be present in court on a watching brief. Our reporter, Mnisi, watched it all unfold in court yesterday. He's just outside for a sense of what's ahead today. And Linda, before we look ahead into what to expect today, perhaps let's take stock of some of the big takeaways from yesterday's cross-examination. As mentioned there, Tumelo Madlala almost, I don't want to say having amnesia, but really leaving the court frustrated by not remembering certain details, despite what he may have said in his statement.
Indeed, and sometimes irritable, Tumelo Madlala, towards attorney Titi Tabane, telling him straight that he couldn't remember important times and would not be drawn into estimating or speculating around what time certain events could have happened. You'll remember in his evidence in chief, he initially made mention that during the time when they arrived at the Khumalo home, they were watching football, a soccer match between Manchester City as well as Chelsea. Now, he was asked at around what time that match played, and he said, well, he couldn't remember, and he went as far as detailing during his evidence in chief the time, or in fact when exactly the intruders entered the house, and he specifically said it was after the match. Now, he was asked when exactly after the match. He used words like after a while. So he was asked, what do you mean after a while? Was it after a second, a minute, or an hour? When exactly did these intruders enter the house? And he said he wouldn't be drawn into estimating because he could not remember, the times, the exact time at which the intruders happened. So that happened throughout most of his testimony yesterday when asked about important times. For example, when he left Durban, you'll remember that he said he was sent money to come to Joburg and was invited by Senzo Meyiwa on that day. And when he was asked about what time exactly he left the Durban station where he had taken the transport, he said he couldn't remember and also refused to be drawn into the estimation of that particular time. So it was a pretty frustrating day for the defense yesterday, who often had to remind him that he wasn't answering questions directly to Titi Tabane as the attorney representing accused number 1 to 4, but in fact was responding to the court itself and needed to, at most times, maintain decorum.
The back and forth got to a point where Titi Tabane even asked Tumelo Madlala whether he actually still backs the statement that he made, because of the discrepancies, at least the discrepancies that Titi Tabane felt like weren't being clarified enough in court.
Indeed, and those were the discrepancies only seen by the court. And Tumelo Madlala, in all the statements that were read out to him yesterday, maintaining that he was not the one that wrote those statements. It was someone else who took down those statements. And at times, when he was asked about certain portions of the statement, he said that, the person who wrote the statement would have to come and clarify on certain aspects, and not necessarily committing to giving an answer or even distancing himself from those statements. That he did not do. In fact, he went as far as even confirming that the names as well as the signatures on those statements were his, but wouldn't really be drawn into giving clarity around certain aspects. I mean, there was a point where he was read a statement where he spoke about, Longwe Twala, the son of renowned musician Chico Twala, and how he said that it was not Longwe Twala who killed Senzo Meyiwa. He did not come into the house with a gun, and he was specifically asked, why would you make that statement? Who asked you that question? Why would you make that statement? And he said that those would be clarified by someone who wrote that statement. So it was indeed a difficult day for the defense, who really tried to get clarity on certain important aspects, or at least aspects that the defense felt was important to clarify, in as far as the times were concerned, when exactly the intruders entered, but also if you remember, the identification of accused number 2, which was an important aspect really during the last court sitting before it resumed yesterday. The issue around him having attended an identification parade in which he said that he did not point out anyone, and there was no one he could point out during that identification parade. He was specifically asked, and because you were unable to map out an accused person, how is it that you came to court and identified accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, as having been one of the intruders in the house on the day of the murder? And he said he could remember vividly that it was Bongani Ntanzi. He went as far as saying that although he could not remember the color of the jacket that he was wearing, but he definitely knows that it had a hoodie.
Linda Mnisi, live to us there from just outside the High Court in Pretoria. Linda, for now, thanks very much indeed.